allow me to introduce our next speaker of the day, Julianne Odell.
Wow, that was quite an introduction, right? And I guess you all think that I'm going to be talking about rhythm, right? Yeah? Who thinks I'm going to be talking about rhythm? Yes. Well, I'm not. Okay. It's kind of interesting. I'm kind of a victim of my own success in a way that I have this hat that people put on me called the drum lady, which children started calling me 15 years ago. And I love that hat. However, there is another hat to me, which is the leadership coach that not so many people know about. And being an energy worker and a Reiki master and a pranic healer and a certified organization relationship systems coach, what I love to do is go into organizations and I love to combine ancient wisdoms with modern teachings. What I find when I go into the corporate world is that you have people sitting next to each other that could have been sitting next to each other in the same department for 10 years or more. And they do not know that within one or the other lives a secret artist or a secret poet. And I go to CEOs who say it's lonely at the top. And I say, well, look at the ivory tower that you've created. And I go and work with leadership teams, and I find that they're leading, and there's low levels of trust in that leadership team, and they wonder why their organization is full of silos. So what I do is I go in and I start a journey with them of awareness, because for me, awareness is the name of the game. It's a game changer, awareness. And I get them to understand the difference of how it feels to lead below the line with just mind, or leading above the line with mind, body, soul, and heart. And that's the change that I like to evoke. What I'd like to share with you briefly is the model I use, which is the 7 levels of personal, group, and organizational effectiveness. It's the number 7. It's a very spiritual number, and it's a ladder. So I want you to imagine in your mind's eye a ladder of 7 steps. At the bottom of this ladder is hopelessness. I'm not sure about you there, but I've been there. I know what it feels like. And then after hopelessness is fear. Fear of not being good enough, fear of not having enough, fear of not being loved enough. And then comes frustration. That way you feel you have to fight against someone. It's about the opposite of collaboration, fighting for. And then we have courage. So below the line you have hopelessness, fear, and frustration. Where do you feel that ego lives? Would ego live below the line or above the line in engagement, innovation, and synchronicity? Where would ego live? Exactly, below the line. Ego lives below the line, right? Courage is the gateway. It's when you get into that hopelessness, fear, and frustration, and somewhere, something in you says, no, life can't be just like this. It just can't be. There has to be something better than this. Something happens, something triggers, some awareness, something where you say, there's got to be something I can change. And you realize that change begins within. And then you enter courage. And courage is the gateway to above the line. And courage is the place where, even if you're still below the line, something in you says, there's something better, there's a light, there's a hope, there's that light at the end of the tunnel. And you go from the swamp, where I like to call below the line, because I lived there for 43 years, in the swamp, with all those crocodiles and those snakes and those scary things. And you go from the swamp below the line, you get courage, and it shifts, and you change, and then you enter the garden. And in the garden is engagement, where you start having trust and respect, and you collaborate with others to make something greater than what you can achieve alone. And then from that collaboration and engagement, you enter the world of innovation. And in innovation is where there is no fear of being wrong or right. There's the acceptance that in innovation, mistakes become opportunities for learning. And together, collectively, you make amazing things happen. And then the top level is the level of synchronicity. I was a little worried about getting on stage here and talking about something that's not my typical drum lady hat. And I entered the room. I came and they said, "You're on next." I asked Spirit for help because Spirit is always with me. It's that light at the end of the tunnel that took me into the garden. Spirit is always with me. And I walked in and I saw Julie, a very, very dear friend of mine, Mountain High. She takes women on leadership trips in all the mountains in the world. And she made a trip to Mongolia. And how did I know that Spirit was with me? Because I walked into this room, I saw her here, I didn't know that she was going to be here. And I bought this most beautiful top in Mongolia when I went on a trip with my daughter, with Julie, to Mongolia. So I say yes to synchronicity, and I say yes to living above the line, and I want to spend the rest of my life and show others how to live in the garden. Now, do I still go to the swamp? Do I still go below the line? Of course I do. I'm human. I'm not angel yet. However, the difference is that when I go below the line, I now know the difference. And I can ask myself, what is it that I've allowed to happen or allowed to trigger that has taken me down there? And I know how to step back up. So I'm there, all for living in the garden. Are you? Yes. Thank you.